Actually, we have two public hearings. Could we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Jerry, could you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Before we start the public hearing, I'd like to read this statement into the record. The Planning Board shall have the right to rely on any information that is presented by the applicant. If any such information is later found to be inaccurate or incorrect, the Planning Board may determine that any approvals, building permits, or other actions previously granted in connection with the application are null and void. Okay, take attendance. You're on.
Patrick Halpin.
Present.
Mike Cafaro is out. Frank Santos. Julianne Nolan. Jerry O'Neill. Dan Truchin. Ed Wynn.
Present.
Rich Casey. Brian Zatani. Matt Esposito. Juan Leon.
Present.
Okay. So the first item on the agenda is public hearing number 18-0, job number 18-07A, Casimir Golubowski proposes application for shared parking waiver as per the provisions of the DC Downtown Copay Code.
Good evening,
Could you
Mr.
please
Chairman.
state your name and address for the record?
Nicole Blanda. I'm an attorney at Bazell, Blanda, and Visconti with offices at 535 Broad Hollow Road in Melville.
Thank you very much. Have you received and reviewed with your client the memo from the Planning Commissioner regarding this application?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions, comments, changes, revisions?
Yes, we did meet with planning with both Mr. Esposito and the Planning Commissioner last Wednesday when this memo came out. My client and I discussed the proposed covenant with the Planning Commissioner, and there's still some work to be done. You'll see that it says that there's a spot indicated on the site plan for future cross-access, but there is, in fact, no indication on the approved site plan for cross-access, so that is something we still need to work out and kind of flesh out with planning. My client had some concerns regarding cross-access, so that's the covenant, I guess, my point is in flux right now. We're still kind of working out the details as to language and purpose.
Okay. Thank you. Please proceed.
I can go forward? Okay. So I'm here tonight on behalf of the property owner / applicant, I guess to maybe supplement or correct what was previously approved back in 2021 by this board. This property did receive site plan approval for a mixed use on the site. It's 8 two-bedroom units comprised in 2 separate buildings along with a retail component that fronts on Oak Street. As part of the application, you know, it's funny, I looked back at my outline from the hearing. Back then we were still doing, I think, Zoom hearings. And I talked about a parking waiver and talked about shared parking, but it never actually made it into the advertisement, the public hearing advertisement. And I don't know, like I said, I think it was just we all missed it. It was an oversight by myself and by planning to not have it specifically called out. Perhaps at the time, maybe it was thought that it was part of the overall site plan approval, but we're told now that it actually is a separate carve-out, the parking waiver. So what we're looking for is the 20% reduction that the applicant would be afforded pursuant to the Downtown Copay Code. You are permitted to take a reduction if you have on-street parking and also a municipal lot within 500 feet. We did have our traffic engineer, Sean Mulryan, from Mulryan Engineering PC, take a look at the area. And interestingly enough, when Cameron Engineering did their review as part of the departmental process, they also talked about shared parking at the time and getting credit because 20% of 16 would give us the 3 spaces. So the math is all there. Cameron was there. I was sort of there, and we just didn't put it together for the advertisement for the public hearing. But Mr. Mulryan, in his memo, I'm not sure if the board has a copy, but we did submit copies to planning, and I'll certainly submit one tonight. He does note that in addition to the on-street spaces that are in proximity to the subject site. They do provide 2-hour parking Monday through Fridays from 7 to 3, and then people can park there at other times. There's also a municipal parking lot located approximately 450 feet from our site. That's on the southeast corner of Oak Street and Great Neck Road. There's also commuter parking under the LIRR, which is approximately 400 feet north of the subject site, which you could get parking stickers and permits, et cetera. So given the parking demand for our site, the units that we have, we are providing 13 spaces. So we did at the time feel we had enough parking for our site, and that the retail component, which is used by the property owner, he's going to be using it for his materials and kind of as a showroom for himself. We do believe that the shared parking on street and municipal, basically the overall downtown would function to work together for the uses here, and so that we would be able to take advantage of the shared parking as described in the downtown Copeg code. So right now, really what we're still discussing with planning is covenant language. How would an easement work? How heavily burdened would my client's property be if the lot next door came in and was developed? They don't have a curb cut. So there's just some logistics and semantics that need to be worked out.
Matt, do we have the site plan? Okay. So is the applicant saying they're not optimistic about getting the cross-access agreement? Well, let me pose, I understood you did have a meeting regarding this.
So it's not that, so we would have to give the access to the neighbor next door. I believe the property next door is a 40 by 200 foot parcel that doesn't have a curb cut. This is a county road. I don't know if they would be given a curb cut or not. But presumably, if they did have a curb cut, they wouldn't be able to develop their parcel in the manner that I think they're seeking to. And then there's another lot similar. It also looks to be 40, maybe tops 50 by 200 next to that, which appears to be in a similar situation. So the applicant's concern is if he becomes the only outlet for those other two parcels with whatever projects they might come in the future, for the 8 units that are on his site to all of a sudden have all the traffic from these other 2 sites coming through his property, he just has some concerns about where that would be, how that would work, insurance, indemnification, lots of, unfortunately, legal issues that would have to be worked out. And the way this covenant is written, and it just says allow for future cross-access with adjacent property, where indicated on site plan, it just doesn't really, it's not really comprehensive enough for him to be able to consent at this time.
Again, you have 8 two-bedroom apartments, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Any of the board members have any questions? No? How much parking do you have on the site?
13 spaces.
13. And the code requires?
16.
16, okay.
And with the shared parking benefit,
All right. 20%
would be 3.
So you have parking in front of you on Oak Street that's available?
Yes.
How many spots?
There's, I believe that whole entire strip during certain hours of the day is 2-hour parking. And then you have the municipal lot on the corner that's within the 500 feet.
Okay.
Matt, I'm going to give another copy of this. In case the board wants.
All right, yeah, let's.
That's the memo from the traffic engineer.
Are there any other questions?
I have a question,
Please, Mr. Casey.
Can you explain to the board whether or not there's any other way to provide on-site
Sure, for my site, not for future development. Is that what you're asking? So for our site, with the 8 units that we have, they will be specified, the 13 spaces that we're providing would be allocated for the units that are there. In other words, when they're leased, they would be given a numbered parking spot so that they know that they have a spot in the lot itself. The retail component up front, which is Mr. Golubiewski's showroom for his tile work and things of that nature, and his specific small office, every now and then a client will come and want to see the materials. So we do feel that a functioning downtown that has municipal parking would be more than sufficient and adequate to provide parking for those people coming and going. And so the 13 spaces that are actually in the lot, you have 8 for the units and then 5 additional, which can also be surplus for the units as well. And he can allocate them as he sees fit for the tenants and their needs. Does that answer your question?
Well, I was just wondering if there's any way to reconfigure to get more spots on site. So you may have answered that before, but the code requires that the applicant use every attempt to have on-site parking. So
Sure.
I have no comment on the application itself. It may be good, but if there's any way to reduce that relief that you need, like a variance, that should be explored. So if there is none, that may be, this may be your only alternative. That was the first part of the question. The second part is, I know you have bicycle parking on site.
Mm-hmm.
But what other programs are there to encourage the utilization of other transportation? Like, and the code goes through 5 or 6 different things: cash out, parking, shared ride, et cetera, et cetera. You mentioned that you have a spot for each apartment.
Yes.
Okay. Would it be, is one spot for each apartment needed, given the expert's analysis? Would it be possible that if the spots were paid separately, that some units wouldn't need any parking?
Are you-
Or what other,
Are you talking about the parking, the yearly parking permits? Is that what you're referring to? Because I know on some projects in the downtown, we did it for the brewery. I believe we did it on another project that was approved for, on Oak. It might have been 567 Oak. The MTA lot behind them, we did parking permits. We're looking at doing that on Marconi and Great Neck Road on another project that this board recently approved, the lofts at Gale Grace. We agreed to do, I believe it was 13 parking permits on an annual basis for those tenants. So of course the idea is it's a transit-oriented development. Obviously, given its proximity to the railroad, you're hoping that the tenants you're attracting will want to use the railroad. That's the whole idea of the downtown and being near a railroad. But we are also providing 13 spaces on site. So yes, there could be some tenants that have no cars, absolutely. Or if planning felt that there was a reason to have a parking permit in one of the municipal lots, the railroad lots, like we did on some other projects, I think that would be something we would be open to. The project itself went through many reiterations. It's a 2018 job. Originally, he was looking for more units, more retail space. It got cut back. The last iteration, he lost the 9th unit when we did the turning radius for the fire trucks. The board might remember the emergency vehicles and the T-turn. So this was really the best site plan he could get and the most parking he could provide given the size of the site and what he wanted to do. And there were some cutbacks. There were many cutbacks prior to that. And then the final plan, like Mr. Esposito said, we flipped it. But unfortunately, what failed to happen when we flipped the buildings, no indication was shown for cross-access. So you have the curbing, the lighting, the drainage, the pavement, the landscaping, all shown continuously down that property line. So last Wednesday, when we got this memo saying that cross-access needs to be provided, it was just a bit of a surprise for my client. So he needs a little time to digest it, and I think we need to just put our heads together and come up with a place. Like, would it be a shared curb cut? Would it be a shared sort of literal cross-access in the rear, allowing for the properties to flow. What does that mean for parking? Does the neighbor next door get to park in our lot? He just has a lot of questions that we just couldn't flesh out last Wednesday to tonight.
Why does he have only two-bedroom apartments? If you had two one-bedroom apartments, how would that affect parking?
It would reduce parking.
Obviously, but
Yeah.
you have 1.5 for a two-bedroom in a transit-oriented district. What is it, just one for a one-bedroom?
I think the idea was he was doing duplexes, so they're up and down.
Right.
So the idea was to try to provide a different type of housing, not your typical one-bedroom apartment. Again, originally when the job came in 2018, I think it was a more intense, higher density use, and this is where it landed when the board finally gave its approval about a year ago,
Now, the municipal lot, you said is 400 feet away,
450 feet away.
150 feet.
So it's within the 500
It's not as
feet.
close as the Giannini project.
No, but the code says something within
No, I
500 feet.
understand it. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And it's not as close as the others where they've gotten MTA passes, but they're just adjacent to.
No, but we have, what I was told even last Wednesday is downtown Copiague, we're trying to make it, when I say we, the town, right, is trying to make it like the village of Lindenhurst downtown, like the village of Amityville, like the village of Babylon.
Both of those places have serious parking problems, Lindenhurst and
That may be, but then
especially if during the restaurant time.
right. So if we're not really going to be invested in making it a walkable downtown, then we don't need cross-access between the lots because we're not looking at this as a downtown. We're looking at it as everyone needs to have their own curb cut and their own parking, and that I'm willing to explore that. But it's confusing for property owners to try to look at it both ways.
I understand. I'm just actually thinking about it and asking these questions because
Okay.
it's an interesting dilemma. Look, unlike Babylon Village and Lindenhurst have a dilemma. They have restaurants and all that creates a lot of activity. But unlike Bay Shore, they don't have enough parking. And
At times.
One of the things Bay Shore has done is that they're putting parking under the buildings and going up a little higher. So those are all. I mean, I know it's not relevant to this, but I'm curious.
No, but it is relevant because I think people need to start thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
And Marconi, the site, the lofts, is providing parking under the building.
That's right.
So I think it is something, I think that's a very good point, and it's just, people get afraid, oh my God, a 3-story building or parking underneath a building, but for a downtown to work properly, it's not crazy at all.
No, you have to do it, and I say, you want to know what it's about, go to Bay Shore and walk around there.
Yeah.
See what's going on. It's attractive and it works. It's not, it's actually, in my opinion, better than having just a lot of asphalt all over the place. But that's just my opinion.
Right.
All right, any other questions? No? Okay. So Matt, where are we with this? I know we've got more comments, and you always got this issue to work out.
We're going to kind of continue to work with the applicant and hash out
October 17th. Are you optimistic you could work all that out?
give it a shot.
Well, it takes two to tango. Okay. All right, it does take two to tango. Okay, the October 17th. All right, so we need a motion by Julianne to extend the record, second by Jerry. Second. All in favor? Approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
Hearing barbed wire, number 22-33. No matter how.
Let's go.
There you go.
Okay, you say that.
Barbed wire hearing, barbed wire application 22-33, Joseph Amodi. The proposal is for barbed wire fencing.
Okay, who is here on behalf of the applicant?
Hi, I'm Danielle Whitman. I got a letter of permission from the owner to represent him. I'm from Caliber Collision. We're the applicant. We're the tenants of the property.
Could you I'm sorry. You mentioned your name. What is your address?
Danielle Whitman, 14 Bartlett Street, Ellenville, New York,
Okay. Do you swear
12428.
to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please proceed.
Yes, we're just here to appeal for permission for our barbed wire fence permit. We were asked to make that legal when we came in before the Zoning Board of Appeals for our special use permit for the property at 387 to 399 Wyandotte. So we applied for the permit. We were given a list of notes on repairs they wanted and signage they wanted placed. We've submitted the photographs of the improvements to the fence, and we're just waiting for the planning board's final decision.
This is the planning board, and you got the zoning board.
There's
So
a-
what are the changes they're making to, how old is this picture? Is this what we're approving?
Yeah, to our knowledge, the fence was built sometime in the late 80s. So we were not aware of the need for a permit for it. We got the property with it. And once we were, told we had to correct it, we made action too.
There you are. Any questions?
Yes. Yeah, it surrounds the property. We park the cars behind it. Those are not current pictures. I did submit pictures with the signage that explained there was a barbed wire fence there, and then we had to do some tweaks on the fence itself just to make sure that it was up to snuff.
Have you done that, or you plan to do that?
It's been done.
Oh, it's been done, okay. Go ahead, please. Juan.
Hi, good afternoon, ma'am. Very basic question, but what is the need of the barbed wire?
It's always been there. So at this point, for us to remove it, we would have to completely replace the fence since it was built there before we ever took over the property.
Do you have storage there?
Well, vehicles get stored, pending insurance adjustment and repair.
So to Juan's point, you do store vehicles there that you're planning on
But behind the fence only, yeah.
behind the fence, okay. All right. Any other questions? No? All right. Julianne?
So from the picture that we're looking at, there's breaks in the fence. So I would think if you're having a fence that you want to protect something, it's fully enclosed. So is
Those are gates, they roll closed.
all the way around?
Yes. If you look, you can see
Okay.
they're slotted.
And the back? So there's actually no access in once those gates are closed?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? No? Okay. Thank you very, is there anyone from the public that would like to address us? Okay. Oh, it's to approve. All right, now, where do we stand with this application? To consider approving it tonight. Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming. All right, we need a motion to close the record. Motion by Jerry, second by Ed. Second. All in favor? Approved. Thank you very much. Where's the camera? Right there. To our YouTube viewers, I just wanted to let you know that our public hearings are over. We are going into work session, which is not part of the Town of Babylon Planning Board YouTube experience. Thank you.